Welcome to New Domains, the podcast where we explore how AI is set to transform our world and the way we interact with it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of New Domains, where this week we are talking about Apple. If you have shopped for a new phone or computer or any really tablet device recently, you've probably seen many models that are now advertising AI ready or AI integrated. With the explosion of popularity in AI, electronics manufacturers are racing to the opportunity to have AI capabilities built right into their devices. Everyone is rushing to claim their stakes in this artificial goldmine. Today, we are going to talk specifically about the new wave of Apple devices that are AI integrated. Apple has a surprising amount of documentation available on this topic, which surprised me. I was feeling overwhelmed by the scope of research for the show that I was preparing on Meta, and so I pivoted to today's topic because I want to ensure that you have timely and relevant content, and Apple has made impressive strides in AI integration, especially as it relates to privacy. But before we get into our main topic, I do just want to hit a couple of fun, quick stories about AI in the wild. This segment is where we're going to discuss just quick little stories about AI fails or fun things that AI is doing or huge AI successes. And today I have two stories. The first one is probably one that you might have seen in advertisements. In Samsung's latest line of phones, there is a generative AI built into the phone. So basically that just means that there are some AI systems running native onto the device that will create something for you. In this case, it is images and search functionality. They have highlighted the functionality being able to take a picture of something, any object, and then you circle it with your finger on the photo, and then the AI built into the device will search for it, and it is conveniently named Circle to Search. So that's pretty cool, right? You see a picture of something that you want to know more about, you can circle it with your finger and have the AI search it for you and see what it is, whether it's a cool shoe, I think is what the example showed in the commercial, or maybe a bit in a museum, on a plaque in a museum that you want to learn more about. That's there. They are also advertising translation functionalities. While this is nothing new, we've had Google Translate around for a long time. These functionalities, these translations are happening local, meaning on your device. There's no send and receive message from your device to a satellite or to the cloud. There's no need for an app. It's just built into the device itself. So get ready to easily talk with all your international friends in message. In message, meaning like in your messaging app or whatever. The second story is a demo that was done by Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, highlighting OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, their new vision technology. So we all know ChatGPT is primarily used as a large language model. But for this demo, they had a camera integrated with the AI model, and it was leading to interactions in real time with the user, in this case, Anderson, and they had also supplied voice capabilities. So the computer was able to talk to you. It was able to see through the camera, generate thoughts, thoughts in air quotes here, and then actually relay those thoughts back to you through a voice. All this was loaded onto the phone. Again, it wasn't something that was, pinging a cloud server or anything like that. It was all happening on a smartphone device. The content of the demo was an anatomy lesson. Basically, the ChatGPT was going to quiz Cooper on human anatomy. So the technician, the guy holding the phone, but again, he's not operating anything, he's just, pointing. He basically points his phone at a blackboard featuring a chalk outline of the human body. Think like a crime scene chalk outline. And the AI on the phone then asks Cooper to draw and label various internal parts of the body, the liver, the heart, the lungs, etc. As Cooper completes the tasks, the AI is able to understand what is being drawn and provide feedback in real time. So when it asks for the heart, and Anderson correctly circles the heart on the chalk outline, the model responds back saying, "Great job, that is where the heart is." Or if he incorrectly says where a part is, he says, "Oh, that's not quite right. The liver's actually on the blank side." What I found really interesting in this was, in watching the video, it seems like the model is reassuring Cooper when hard questions are asked. So it wasn't just saying, like, in a very scientific way, "No, that's not right." It was saying, as he was hesitating, his body language was showing, "I'm not quite sure where the liver is." The model was saying, "Oh, it's okay, Anderson, just give it a shot," or "No pressure, Anderson." And then when Cooper placed the liver on the wrong side of the body, ChatGPT gently corrected the mistake. It was as if ChatGPT was gentle parenting Anderson about this anatomy lesson. And I find all this incredibly interesting. Not just the, can it recognize the right or wrong, objective of where the circled body part is, and doing all this in real time on a smartphone. That's incredible. But I wonder if, like I said, if they have intentionally or maybe subconsciously, as we keep coming back to with the bias element of programming in or inclinating this AI model to have gentle parenting as like a personality or something. It's a really remarkable demo. I'm sure you could find it online, and I think I'll have it linked here. But it sheds some light onto what this technology can be used for teaching, for auto repair, DIY, cosmetology, architecture, like anything that is teachable in a visual manner. To some extent, like this can be used and applied. The models would have to be very well made and very well trusted, which is always a risk, but it is showing what the technology is headed for and capable of. If it was incorrect and some things were wrong, or there was incorrect bias introduced, it would be a disaster if we had AI models teaching med students what veins are actually arteries, or mixing up the ilium and the ilium. I know those sound the same, but they're spelled different. Med students, you can defend me in the comments. So what other capabilities do you think that this type of integrated AI could be possible to do with? So now on to our main topic, Apple AI. What is Apple AI? Beginning with some versions of the iPhone 15 and Mac laptops or desktops with the M1 OS, those devices will support Apple Intelligence, which is AI capabilities built directly onto the device itself. Meaning, when you use ChatGPT through a browser on Google Chrome or whatever your browser is, that's not on your computer. You are sending in a request. The request is going to a computer stored somewhere else. It's generating an answer, and then it's being sent back to you through the internet. But the difference here is that the AI is actually, all of that computation is actually happening in the phone or the Mac laptop itself. There is no sending or receiving happening. AI will be built directly into the device itself without visiting a website or opening an app. Here is what Apple has to say on its website to introduce users to its new AI integrated devices. Quote, "Built into your phone, iPad, and Mac to help you write, express yourself, and get things done effortlessly. Draws on your personal context without allowing anyone else to access your personal data, not even Apple." End quote. Now, this is the hook that drew me in to this episode because I was really curious about how Apple, or any company, this is just an Apple-focused episode, but it could be Microsoft, it could be Dell, it could be HP, like anybody that's doing AI in-device, how are they going to handle privacy? Because if they're following and collecting every keystroke I make, that is an incredible amount of information that is being collected on you that I had real concerns about. So when they said not even Apple, I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. Starting with iOS 18.3, Apple Intelligence is an opt-out service. So before 18.3, you could opt into it, but now with 18.3, if any of your Apple iOS devices are after that OS level, and they are iPhone 15 or Mac M1 operating system, Apple Intelligence is turned on by default, meaning that now you will have to opt out. If this is something that you are curious about, just go into your device settings and see what version of OS you have, what level of device you have, iPhone 15 or 16 or whatever, and you can search to see if the Apple Intelligence setting is turned on or not. What does that mean? You have Apple AI on your device. What benefits will you be receiving from this? Apple highlights a few. The first one being text. Basically, if you have a large body of text, the AI can summarize a large body and get the short version of a long group thread. So you could say something like, catch me up on all the texts I missed with my girls group chat. There also is writing tools that can proofread your text, rewrite versions, and refine the tone and wording to make it just right. Writing tools are also available nearly everywhere you write, even on third-party apps. So it's not just like it's in the messaging app, but it could be in any application that you have on your phone that you would be writing text in. So that's what the benefits of having it be on device is you don't just get the benefits of the AI in the app, you get the benefits across the entire device. They also talk about AI for images. You can create images from text descriptions, suggested concepts, or photos from your library. This functionality exists online on a variety of websites, but now they're bringing it to your device. You also are able to create custom emojis. You're also able to turn a sketch, a little finger sketch, into a related image that complements any notes you have with what they're calling Image Wand. You're also able to make a movie based off of the description you provide. So, for example, I went to Zion last year. I could say, make a movie of my vacation to Zion, and it will, take the photos and generate, something like they do with the memories, but you can now direct those things. Also, you can also do a quick cleanup of photos, such as removing background people. So this is something that Photoshop originally introduced years ago, but as AI advances, it's now in more places. So you can remove background people, you can remove telephone poles, things like that. And again, it's all done locally on your device. Siri is also enhanced. Siri can retrieve your passport number from a past flight or a recipe that a friend shared with you in a text or an email many months ago. And Siri also now has access to third-party apps like emails and things like that as well. With these devices, ChatGPT is also integrated into Siri and writing tools, so you'll get even more of the benefits from their expertise there. You don't have to jump between tools. Siri can tap into the ChatGPT infrastructure for certain requests, including questions about photos or documents. And they are saying that you can control when ChatGPT is used, and you will be asked before any of your information is shared. So I think if you don't want to take advantage of this, you don't have to. And it's also apparently free. We'll see, how long that stays, right? But for now, they're saying it's free. So those are the main highlights that they're, the marketing highlights that they are bringing up for why you would want to take this. And let's see what they say about the data privacy part, because all of that is great, but if they're going to, basically get your firstborn through all of this, then I would say that's not worth it. But after I did some investigation and some digging, I was pleasantly surprised. So let's take a look. As we jump into the privacy portion of the show, I just want to highlight again how important this topic is. Just think for a moment how important and how much personal information exists on your cell phone already. All your email, all your text messages, pictures, medical records when you log into your medical, insurance app, addresses, all of this stuff that is incredibly personal that you really, that's why we're so, our credit card numbers. That's why we're so attached to our phones, not just because of the endless supply of dopamine, but because they are integrated into our lives in so many different aspects. So by introducing AI into this environment, with all these requests flying back and forth from your device to the cloud and back, it presents actually a large opportunity, a high number of opportunities for your data to be compromised. So think about the statistic that 90% of car accidents happen within 5 miles of your home. Well, yeah, it's not because you're driving more dangerously 5 miles from your home. It's that within 5 miles of your home is where you're doing most of your driving. After that, you're splintering off in all these directions, but every single time you get in your car, it starts at your home and you have to drive outward from there. So if you're sending all this data back and forth from your phone to the cloud for AI information, they are using that information to build a large language model or to give you responses. That is more opportunities either to have your information where you agree to it being used and given away through like the privacy agreement, or stolen through malicious actors, right? All that data is flying back and forth. It presents more opportunities for somebody to come in and steal that data. Anyway, I think I made the point. So Apple has gone through and they are really marketing this integrated AI with a very security-focused background. And I really appreciate this. I read through a lot of the information and felt very impressed. Again, I don't understand the technicals behind it, but I'll get to why it was impressive to begin with. And I really found it quite refreshing and encouraging that they are making so much of the how this works transparent to users without, giving away the secrets of how it works. So we're going to go through all of that. The big asset for the Apple Intelligence is what they are calling private cloud compute. And they have designed this to diligently protect your privacy. Some of the technology is built into the hardware on your device. And what that means is that the AI, that's integrated can use your personal information without having to collect and send it to a cloud to function. It's local on your device, and it keeps in this node privately rather than having to be sent back and forth, which eliminates a lot of the risk for interception. This is a really big deal, right? The whole key to AI success is data. And so the more data that's available, the more robust you can train the models. And what Apple has done is that they're creating a technology that isn't reliant on harvesting personal information from its users to enhance the AI functionality. We'll see how good the AI is, but I imagine it's probably pretty decent. And the fact that it is even considering privacy in the way that it is, I think is very encouraging. With private cloud compute, Apple Intelligence can draw on larger server-based models running on Apple Silicon, which is something that I'm not going to get into, but it's proprietary to Apple, that will allow you to handle more complex requests for you while protecting your privacy. I kind of think of this like an algebra equation, where some parts of the equation are required to operate the AI are hosted in the cloud, right? It's a big, long, complex formula. A lot of the elements are using the cloud infrastructure, but the key parts, let's say the key X variable that you're trying to solve, is processed locally on your device. And so that critical information that you want to keep private stays private. And any parts that has to be used, between your device and the cloud are obfuscated. So, according to Apple's documentation, what are the current challenges with cloud AI and privacy? Well, cloud AI security and privacy guarantees are very difficult to verify and to enforce. If there's a cloud AI service that states that it does not log certain user data, then there's generally no way for security researchers to verify this promise. So basically, it's hard to verify. It's hard to make sure that they're saying, we guarantee it. Apple's saying that that's not necessarily true. It's difficult to provide runtime transparency, meaning it's hard to be able to see exactly what's happening in real time when things are happening in the cloud. And it's challenging for cloud AI environments to enforce strong limits to privileged access. So for what this means is that a service administrator, a system administrator who is trying to back up data from a live server or fix a bug or something like that could have admin privileges and inadvertently copy sensitive user data in the process. So it's like having a super user in this system that's then able to kind of view everything. You better hope that that individual is really trustworthy and not sleep deprived and, is able to be trustworthy with what they're seeing. Or alternatively, criminals that are, using ransomware or phishing technology could compromise that user and gain those privileges and then have access to all of the user's information. That's the more technical explanation of why this is all very important to maintain privacy. And so here are the reasons why Apple is advocating for its private cloud compute technology as a counter to the risks and concerns that exist with, public cloud AI computing. Apple has made 5 really key promises to ensure that any user data that is shared with the private cloud compute isn't accessible to anyone other than the user and not even Apple. So they basically are in these 5 promises. They're making sure that your data is never stored, it's used only for your requests, and it is verifiable. So I'm going to walk us through each of those promises and give a little bit more context of what they mean. You can decide for yourself if you feel like this technology is worth adopting or if you'd like to hold off. So promise number 1, they say, is stateless computation on personal user data. Stateless refers to data that is not stored in a state. I know that's a little redundant, but basically think of it like stateless computation is a librarian that helps you find information without keeping any notes on your past visits. So each request that you make, each time you type in something that the AI is using, there are no notes from your past visits that you've typed in. Each request is treated separately, ensuring your privacy is protected. The private cloud computing uses personal user data only to fulfill the request. The data is not stored and it cannot be accessed by Apple staff, even for like debugging, like I mentioned, like a super user that wants to go in and see, where something's going wrong. Apple can't see the details of your private information. Promise number 2 is enforceable guarantees. This technology is secure by design rather than claiming that the data used is secure. So to differentiate, they're saying that the whole pipeline of this is a secure pipeline. We've built everything to be secure rather than give us your data, we promise we'll protect it. There's a difference there. In the documentation, Apple does go through their process of manufacturing, not in hyper specifics, but they do say that all of this starts from the manufacturing of the hardware, where there is transparency in place and checks and balances in place and monitoring to the transportation, the moving of the hardware from where it's made to where it gets loaded with the software. And the design of the entire system is to confirm security rather than harvesting all the user's data and then trying to build a digital wall around it. So I'm not going to go through the entire steps of that process, but in their white papers and their technical documents, they do say, here's the checks that we have in place. Promise number 3 is no privileged runtime access. That means that Apple can't bypass security even to troubleshoot, like I mentioned before. Most software has a debugging mode where you can remove the UI and go in and see about what's going on under the hood, as developers like to say. And this is not existent in Apple's AI. This private cloud computing does not have a mode like that. It means it's more challenging for Apple, but it's more secure for us. And this also means that there is no super user or administrator credentials that can magically access private information. Promise number 4 is non-targetability. This means that an attacker can't gain access to the entire system and collect all the user's information like we discussed during the phishing episode. All users have their own node, their own little alcove with strict silos containing their data. So if there was to be a hack on this system, basically the hacker would only be able to see, I don't know what they would see, but they wouldn't be able to see your data. They would only be able to see that users A, B, and C exist, but not the detailed specifics of the requests of the users. So that's a big deal, because if you had one system that was collecting all this information, that would make it extremely vulnerable to attack. The last promise that they're making is verifiable transparency, and this one was the big selling point for me, because all these other things, again, I have no way of verifying whether those are true or not. I'm not an IT specialist or system security expert, but they're saying that the promise number 5 is verifiable transparency. Apple will make these software images, basically the code, so to speak, available for every update of private cloud compute, available for security research. So they are inviting security and privacy researchers to inspect that private cloud computing software, verify its functionality, and then also help identify issues so Apple can address them in the future. This is a huge step in my mind. I'm not an expert in all of this, but the fact that Apple is opening up their software and their images to say, here's the system, here's how it works, break it and tell us how to fix it is huge. I'm really impressed by this, and I think it says a lot about how much Apple is valuing privacy. They also go on to say that for some components of this whole endeavor, they will make the log information available in plain text. So you don't have to be an expert to read it. If you are really curious, you can go and in plain English, it might be technical English, but in plain English, they will make that information available rather than it being, you have to know however many different programming languages to be able to understand it. So those are the main promises that Apple is making to verify and secure your data on their devices. And I think that is quite impressive. Now, just as a little side note here, on the hardware that is in the cloud, right, because it can't all be run on your local device, but for whatever is in the cloud, they are saying that they're implementing a secure enclave and secure boot technology, which is the same technology that already exists on your iPhone device that will prevent Apple from discovering user passwords to the iPhones as well as to the new OSs. So this secure, quote, secure enclave, secure boot is already tech that exists on the iPhone. They're implementing that on the cloud servers that are helping to run these requests. So for any of those who may be interested, I am linking the security guide for private cloud compute in the show notes of this episode. If you want to read through it, there's a one page, which maybe took me 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes to read through. That's a little bit easier. If you want to read through like their white papers on all that, they have those published as well, and I'll link those. And I just want to be clear that this is not an Apple ad. This is, I'm not on Apple's payroll, and I'm not an expert in privacy or security or any of that kind of stuff. But like I said at the top of the show, based off of how difficult it was to try to put together a show for Meta on their AI endeavors, there's so much there. The fact that Apple made it very transparent on their website about this technology, here's the one page, here's the white papers, all of that was a really good faith indication to me that people that do care about this and are security experts will be able to tell us regularly, not just once, but consistently, if this technology has vulnerabilities or if it should be avoided, or, don't install the latest update because there's a vulnerability, right? Apple has really, I think, given this a lot of thought, and I am pleased about that. And again, not an ad. This is not a sponsored video or podcast, but kudos to them for doing that. So with that, we conclude today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it interesting and educational. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider sharing with a friend. Give us a good rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And let me know at Instagram, email, if you have used this technology, if you think that it's something we should adopt or we should avoid. How has it impacted your life? I'd love to hear any feedback from you guys, and I'd love to hear any suggestions for future topics that you're curious about, and I would be happy to dive into those areas. You can provide feedback at ReframersPod on Instagram or reframerspod@gmail.com, and that's where you can find me. So thanks so much for listening. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next time.